Hi, welcome to Daily Records. I'm Tommy Burton, and today's album is the second album, 1996, released in September 24th, 1996, Weezer's Pinkerton. Now, this album is really an anomaly kind of in the Weezer catalog. The Blue Album, which everyone knows, produced by Rick Ocasek, had hits like Buddy Holly, Say It Ain't So, and Undone, the Sweater Song. That album was huge, video airplay on MTV, a lot of success on that album, and it brought Pinkerton to the world. I mean, brought Weezer to the world. Well, Pinkerton came out in 1996, and the musical landscape in 1996 was very different than it was in 1994, 1993, when the Blue Album came out. And what had happened was the grunge movement and the alternative musical movement sort of came and went. And so Rivers Cuomo, the writer and singer behind Weezer, he was going to do a rock opera called Songs from the Black Hole. And so he also was attending Harvard University, where he wrote a lot of the album. And basically they produced the album themselves. They wanted to catch sort of a live sound. But what it did is that this album is darker. It's far more sort of in your face than the Blue Album was. And, when it came out, no one cared. Now, it did make a few sort of dents with year-end polls. I mean, people that heard it couldn't get enough of it. There we go with the sleeve there on the DGC label, as you can see there. This was also the last album to feature the original bassist Matt Sharp. He went on to work with the Reynolds. There were 3 singles from this album: El Scorcho, The Good Life, and Pink Triangle. Now it did make the top 20 when it came out, but it quickly fell off, and it just never met the expectations of the first album. Now, the interesting thing about it is that as time wore on and as more and more people heard this album and was exposed to it, they discovered that it really was a brilliant album. So it became a bit of a cult classic. Now, interestingly enough, the band sort of kind of dropped off the map after this album didn't really go anywhere. And they would emerge, I think, in 2001 with their third album, and it was sort of the rebirth of Weezer. And of course, they've been around ever since. Not that they ever really went anywhere; they didn't break up or anything. But this album, I think, just took so much out of them, particularly Rivers, took so much out of them emotionally that it was just hard to even think about writing and recording. He also had leg surgery. Rivers Cuomo had one leg that was shorter than the other, and so he had these very painful physiotherapy sessions, and it sort of reflected in the songwriting. A lot of this album just features a lot of introspective, dark sort of stuff. Now, the Pinkerton and the cover, just to talk about it for a second, he was studying at Harvard, and he was also studying classical music. And really he was talking about, thinking about Madame Butterfly and the story that it tells. And so I'm going to quote Rivers Cuomo here and kind of talking about the background of this album. Fans ask me all the time what it is like to be a rock star. I can tell that they are dreaming, as I dreamed when I was a kid, of someday ruling the world with a rock band. I tell them the same thing I would tell any young rock star to be. You will get lonely. You will meet 200 people every night, but each conversation will generally last approximately 30 seconds and consist of you trying to convince them that no, you do not want their underwear. Then you will be alone again in your motel room, or you will be on your bus in your little space trying to kill the 9 hours it takes to get to the next city, whichever city it is. This is the life of a rock star. So he felt really frustrated by this, and so He would listen to Madame Butterfly, the Puccini opera, and it just he was touched by how tragic it was, and it just wanted him to go a little deeper with his music, and so he decided to go darker. And so songs like "Tired of Sex," "No Other One," "Why Bother," it's not these happy sort of poppy songs that Weezer was sort of known for, this power pop punk kind of thing that they were doing. And the album really is on the verge of Falling Apart. Fans of Big Star's Radio City and Big Star's Third can definitely draw comparisons. There are songs that almost just break down in the middle of it. They're just driven over the cliff, rhythmically, and so it's not the Weezer that you're probably familiar with sort of these sort of melodic pop hits. And so Pinkerton is worthy of its status. A lot of people feel like Pinkerton was the birth of what became known as emo music, because just the raw emotion that was displayed on this album. And I think it bothered Rivers, because I think after a while he became embarrassed by it, like exposing that much of his emotion on a single album. And I think he withdrew and decided to go back to writing just sort of hooky pop songs. But this is today's Daily Record, Pinkerton by Weezer. Some may say an underrated gem. I don't know that it's underrated. It's just not as well known, and it probably should be, because this is Weezer's pet sounds, or this is them bearing their soul to the world, and so it definitely shows Rivers Cuomo and Weezer as a band that is far deeper than what people probably realize. Like, subscribe, comment, share down below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's TommyBurton75. And thanks to everyone that's been watching. Check out my other channel, Tommy Burton's VC channel. In the meantime, I'll see you guys tomorrow with another Daily Record.